Hello everyone and welcome back to a very exciting chess game. This time we have Efim Bogoljubov with the white pieces and his opponent was Jacques Mieses, and this game was played in 1925 in Baden Baden, Germany, and this was a very famous chess game. So let me quickly introduce these very important chess players. Now Bogoljubov was one of the strongest chess players in his era. In the first half of the 20th century. He even played 2 World Chess Championship matches against the reigning World Chess Champion Alexander Alekhine, and he lost both of them. So he challenged for the World Chess Championship title twice, and he was the Soviet chess champion for 2 times. A very strong chess master. He was Soviet-born German chess player. And his opponent Jacques Mieses was also a very important German chess grandmaster. So, okay, let's see what happened. And this was actually a famous chess game. Very instructive game, eye-opening and beautiful. So d4, f5, and we have the Dutch defense g3, and knight to f6, bishop to g2, e6, knight to f3, d5, and this is the Stonewall setup, as we know. So castling, bishop to d6, c4. So if d takes on c4, then queen to a4 is going to reclaim the pawn, and it will also open the diagonal for the bishop potentially. So not capturing, c6 and solidifying the pawn structure, knight to c3, knight from b to d7, and queen to c2, and knight to e4, and king to h1. Now this was an interesting move by Efim Bogoljubov. Now he is planning to bring the rook over to the g file, blast open the file if possible, and then unleashing the rook for attacking. So he wants to bring the rook to g1. A pretty aggressive plan by Bogoljubov. So queen to f6 and then bishop to f4. So, well, he says, come on, take my bishop and make my day. And Mieses goes for it. Bishop takes on f4, well, capturing the bishop and damaging the pawn structure, but this is exactly what Bogoljubov wanted. He is now potentially going to open, he's going to use the rook in this open file. So the file has been opened, and white has some good attacking prospects on the open g file now, even though the pawn structure has been damaged. So queen to h6, and pushing the pawn and defending the pawn with pushing the pawn, and then knight from d to f6, and then here comes knight to e5, a natural nice parking spot for the knight. Knight to d7, and then here comes, as expected, rook to g1. Now he is using this open g file, so challenging this very strong knight. Knight takes on e5 and capturing back with the d pawn. And here comes knight takes on c3, not capturing knight with the queen, but capturing the knight with the pawn. Bishop to d7. Now we can say that white actually has a better bishop, and black's bishop is looking poor, and it's also a little bit crumpy. So in this position, by the way, if d takes on c4, then this is going to give white the open file. And plus, we can say that black has some dark square weaknesses. Okay, so bishop to d7, and then rook from a to d1. And white can also potentially play c takes the d pawn, and after capturing back, he can march the c pawn, and that is also good for white. So we have b5, and then queen to b2. So black is fighting against this pawn, but queen to b2 was a very good move. So he is aiming some of the weaknesses of black. And finally, Jacques Mieses castled. By the way, let's check out what happens if d takes on c4, then queen to a3. And how is black going to castle? And you can see that black has some weaknesses in the dark squares. And if b takes, then queen to b7. Obviously, this is also not very good for Mieses. So this is why castling, when he got the chance, he decided to castle. but then queen to a3. We have rook over. The better move was b takes on c4, and this time this move would have been better, but black still has some holes and weaknesses, and this angry rook on g1 is looking at the king from that open file, and white has some good attacking prospects in here if black fails to find the correct defensive moves. Okay, so we have rook over, and then c takes on b5 after capturing back, exclamation point, queen to h6. Now, can you see the threat? Well, Mieses saw the threat and he played queen to h5. I'm going to play a random move, let's say b4. Then can you see what white can play in this position? Okay, bishop takes on d5, opening the rook, and the g-pawn is going to be pinned, because if capturing the bishop, bad news, queen takes queen, ouch. So the g-pawn is pinned. So okay, queen to a6, threatening to play bishop takes, so this is why queen to h5, and now can you see what white can play here? Okay, bishop takes, still bishop takes on d5. This is not stopping Bogoljubov, so accepting the sacrifice, what else? If not, white is much better. And now can you guess the very strong move for white? Why did Bogoljubov sacrificed his bishop? What was the idea? It is white to move and win. Actually, after that move, black is falling apart. He is falling into pieces. This was the move, rook takes on g7. So if king moves to the left, then queen to f6, and the black king is not going to see the light of the day. King takes rook, and of course if king to h8, then queen to f6, and this is all over. Because if queen takes rook, then rook back, discovered check, checkmate. There is no defense. An incredible checkmate. So after e takes on d5, he unleashed the rook, a bone-crushing move, rook takes on g7. So king takes on g7, and then checking the king, only move, and here comes rook to g1, and black is busted. Black can only block with the queen. But if queen to g6, then rook takes, and this is also not very good, because white is going to push the pawn, and black is in trouble, actually, in this position. So after queen to g6, I don't know, maybe this is even worse, because after Bogoljubov captured the queen, rook takes on g4, f takes on g4, and he has now two pawn rollers, pushing the pawn f5, and the e-pawn is also going to be supported with the f-pawn. White has two connected pass pawns. So if attacking the queen, then white can check the king. So we have rook over. If rook to f8, then queen to g5, and pushing the pawn, and you can see that white is doing very well. So with playing this move, actually queen to g4, maybe Mieses was hoping to win, because he has two rooks plus the bishop against only one queen. Is this enough material? But let's not forget, he also has two connected pass pawns, and this is decisive. Now let's see how it was decisive. Rook from d to c8, and then e6, and the pawns are marching. So defending the bishop and aiming the king, but we have check, only move, and then f6, and threatening checkmate. The only defense with the rook, and then attacking the bishop, attacking the queen, and which square is the best square for the queen. Guess the move again. Okay, queen to e5, aiming the king, and the immediate threat is pushing the pawn. So we have d4 check, and king to g1, very calm, a very calm move, and then bishop to d5, fighting for his dear life. So if capturing the bishop, still white is winning, but the more precise move was f7. So let's see what happens if capturing the bishop. Then d takes on c3 looks intimidating, but f7, and okay, white is better, threatening to take the rook. If pushing the pawn, capturing the rook, king takes, and then pushing the pawn, and it is going to be a discovered check to the king as well. So it is going to be a difficult position, but that's complicated. Bogoljubov played the best move. Instead of capturing the bishop, f7 was the much more precise move. So check, only defense, this is the only move. And then he knocks the head of the bishop, and Mieses resigned. Very beautiful interactive chess game with lots of beautiful tactical ideas. So let's check out what happens if the obvious continuation happens. If d takes on c3, then can you see white's next move? e7, and how to defend. You can see that these two pawn rollers was decisive, and black is too slow, white is faster. So pushing the pawn is not going to do much because white is faster. Pushing the pawn with queen, and that's check. So check and then checkmate. Okay. So after pushing the pawn, if rook takes, by the way, then queen takes, and white is still faster, much faster. So if pushing the pawn, check, only move, and then checkmate. I would like to show you an alternative line, which is very fun. So after d takes on c3, if white wants, he can also play queen to c5. This is also quite amusing. Attacking the rook, defending the pawn, threatening to push the pawn. There are so many threats. This is not possible to defend. It is not possible to defend for black. But if rook takes queen, deflecting the rook, queen, but then capturing the rook. But okay, I mean, the thing is, this is much more slower for white. White has a faster win in this position. So f7, capturing the bishop, and then pushing the pawn is so much more precise, and there is no sensible defense against pushing the pawn queen. So white is faster. Okay, so this was the very exciting chess game, the immortal chess game of Bogoljubov. So f7, and then capturing the bishop, and Mieses resigned. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care, and bye-bye.